present you an adversing conflict between friends and classmates. So, they have to deliver a philosophy project, but one of them did not do their part. So, what shall we do? Let's go watch the notes.
Where is Anais?
I don't know. We have to present the project today.
But we don't have her part.
What are we going to do?
Guys, you need to present today, otherwise you get a 2 in your exam nota.
Okay, that looked like a very interesting situation, but now we're here back in the studio with a very special guest. We have here with us the group leader. So a round of applause for her. Okay, so I would like to know, how do you feel about this whole situation?
I felt so devastated. I worked so hard for this project. All week I almost didn't sleep. I also lost my chess club class.
Okay, enough. To make the situation a little more tense, I'm gonna have a little surprise for you. Bring her. Okay, here you have her. A round of applause for her, please. Sweetie, come sit down over here. Come sit down, please. Sit down. Thank you. So, what everyone is expecting, why didn't you do your project?
Okay, look, this is the problem. A new gossip group chapter was on. I mean, are you seriously going to think that I'm going to miss Serena and Dan getting back together for a philosophy project? Oh my god, it's so unfair. I mean, Wait, what?
I'm so disappointed with you, Anais. All the group worked so hard for this project and you weren't even there. I mean, what do you expect us to do? Take the blame for you? Or should we really tell our teacher what happened?
What do you think?
This is so unfair, Anita. You know that I can't do it. I just don't get it. I really don't understand what I have to do, what you have to do. I can't do anything. It's so unfair. I really need your help.
I really don't know what to do.
This looks like a very complex situation. But thanks God we have an expert that can help us with this moral problem. I'm sorry. We're gonna go here with them in the studio. Go on camera.
Hi, I'm Plato, and this is my opinion of the situation.
Eudaimonia is your long-term happiness. It is influenced with all your life's acts, which means your acts have consequences in the future. To be happy, we need to reach balance, and balance means not to always do whatever we desire. We have to control ourselves to have a good life. A pleasant life consists in having balance and being at peace with yourself. To be in peace, you have to be honest and virtuous. Honesty and virtue are considered to be moral attitudes. In conclusion, if you are moral, you will have a pleasant and happy life. Because it is in your self-interest to have a happy life, it means that being moral is also in your self-interest. Another aspect to take into account is our soul, which is divided into 3 parts: desire, reason, and will. Desires only consider your self-interest, not other people's. So reason uses will to control desires. If reason works well, then we should act morally. The moral thing to do would to tell Anais and let the teacher decide what will be done to her, because that would mean they are being honest and therefore moral, which would lead finally to their eudaimonia. Anais clearly acted driven by her desires and did not take into account her long-term happiness, which would be her result mark in the project. This also affects her relationship with her group, which are not content with her actions.
Good afternoon, I'm David Hume, and this is my opinion of the situation.
Morality derives from sentiment and feelings of approval or disapproval, rather than from reason. People usually approve things that are pleasant or that are useful for them or others. This does not necessarily mean it is in our self-interest that people also behave morally, because we can also approve or disapprove of actions that do not affect us personally. So, the origins of feelings of approval or disapproval come from sympathy. It is natural to care about ourselves and about others too. So that is the reason why we are motivated to develop a moral agreement. So the moral thing to do would be not to tell on Anais, because it is their friend, and she believed it was better she kept herself away not to disturb the group. It would affect her grades drastically if they did tell on her, and she would feel devastated. But if they present anyways, without her part, their marks would be affected, but not as excessively as Anais's if they did tell on her.
Good morning, I'm John Rawls, and this is my opinion of the situation.
A just system would be one that treats everyone fairly, such as in a social contract. In this developed system, every participant should be as well off as possible. The basic participants' characteristics should be that they are all rational, motivated to act morally, and adverse to risk. But people are also motivated by their own self-interest. So, we'd have to go back to an original position. That would be to live under a veil of ignorance. This is a theoretical device that makes people ignorant about their identity, and their only knowledge would be the basic participants' characteristics. You would benefit from common welfare rather than from self-interest. So, the basic principles would be the liberty principle, equal opportunities, and the difference principle, which states that even inequalities might be advantageous for society. So, social contract works because people mutually benefit from it. It is why we should be moral. Taking into account the third principle, maybe it was best for the common welfare of the group that Anais didn't help because she didn't understand, but she could have probably helped in other aspects of the project, such as the design. So, in my position of justice as fairness, if an individual takes advantage of people's mutual agreement to act morally, i.e., work and do their part in their presentation, it would be unfair for the rest. The individual should be punished for its actions.
Guten Morgen, everyone. My name is Immanuel Kant, and this is my opinion of the situation.
As a deontologist, I believe that moral judgment is contained in the act itself, and that moral is not based on happiness, but on reason. This is because people are not forced to act by desire, they have power of will that makes them take the best possible decision. This is understood as a categorical imperative. I also state that moral judgments are rationally supported, so then the rational thought leads us to an objective reality. The categorical imperative's characteristics are that it is non-negotiable and that it applies in any circumstances. It is divided into three maxims. First, universality, which means that your action can be done by everybody at any moment. Second, that people must be treated as an end on itself rather than a mean, so they can't manipulate each other. Third, you are the maximum authority of your morality and of your ends. I have been asked whether I consider the greater good in my statement. Consequentialists ask that because they believe that right and wrong are based on the consequences of your actions. But my response to them is that the greater good is irrelevant, given that people are their own and personal rational agents, and which nobody should manipulate to achieve their own goals. In my opinion, because this theory implies that you must never lie, I would advise the group to tell on Anais, because if they don't, they would be acting immorally towards the teacher. And also, her own attitude of omission in her teamwork participation is immoral, given that she took advantage of her classmates who worked hard and would be manipulating them to achieve her own goal of getting a good mark.
Guten Morgen, I'm Friedrich Nietzsche, and this is my opinion of the situation.
In my point of view, morality has no rational basis but is rather an expression of instinct, which varies from person to person. I say there are two types of morality, master and slave morality. First, the master morality is considered to be superior, honorable, and courageous, and that it has power and authority over the rest of the people. Whatever they desire and approve of is morally right, and they do not take into account the consequences of their acts or their effects on other people. Second, the slave morality obeys and depends from the master. It is humble, obedient, and abstinent, but although it is engaged and dominated by the master's morality, it resents the master because of his power. They find him evil, And because good is opposite to evil, then being a slave must be good. To stand against the master would be understood as a rise in their authority, and would imply disobedience that goes against their morality. So that is why those kind of people prefer to live happily in their meek position. They also value their peers too much, not as the master who is an individualist. So that is why they prefer to maintain their position and that way prevent any of them from rising above the rest of their group. Their bases and motivations are very different. Masters develop from their desire of freedom and individuality. Slaves instead are motivated by fear and resentment. So taking into account the present situation, we can observe that Anais acted with a master's morality by taking advantage of her group. If Anita does not tell on her to their teacher, she would be acting with a slave morality towards Anais, which is contradictory, given she is the group leader. So I believe the working group should tell what happened with Anais' work to their teacher and that way act from their master's position with a master's morality.
Okay, now that we spoke to all the experts, I want to know what each person involved in this situation thinks. So we have another note here for you.
I have to say that I agree with most of the specialists, but it was Nietzsche who's really made me realize that my working partner was actually just taking advantage of the rest of the group and me. I mean, she was taking advantage of the fact that we worked and she didn't, only because she feels superior. I'm not gonna tolerate that attitude from her.
I mean, I totally agree with Hume. He's totally right. I mean, my group should totally sympathize with me and obviously not tell on me. I really need a good grade, you know, for extra points. And I need to get into a good modeling agency. Duh.
As a teacher, I always expect to be told the truth, and it's my duty to know what's happening between my students. I agree mostly with Kant, who states clearly what's right or wrong, and also clarifies that no matter the circumstances, you should always act morally.
So, after researching, talking to experts, the classmates, we all have our own opinion about the situation. But the question is, what would you do?